Mr. Mayor, is it safe to go on public transport in London?
If you keep a social distance, it is. We've made sure on public transport in London, even before the lockdown, we were going over and above in relation to hospital quality antiviral disinfectant.
What are you basing your certainty that it's safe on?
Well, as long as you keep a social distance, it is safe, because what we've done with public transport, whether it's the buses, the tubes, the trams, the overground, the bus garages, the depots, the restrooms, is to make sure we've enhanced the cleaning regime. So we're using the hospital-style antiviral.
Okay. On March the 3rd, you appeared on this programme, and I asked you the same question. Here's what you said. Sorry, it's coming.
There is no risk in using the tube or buses or other forms of public transport or going to a concert. The advice from the experts
how do you know that, Mr. Mayor?
Many times a day.
Mr. Mayor, no disrespect, but how on earth can you say that in a city of 12 million people, there is no risk, given that we now know it's here?
Because I rely upon the advice I receive from Public Health England and the Chief Medical Officer, and the advice is that you're not going to catch it if you're washing your hands regularly. The evidence we have so far is that it's possible to contain it and to delay its spreading.
When you said that, and I challenged you on it, this was a time when Italy and Iran and other countries were being completely run over by coronavirus, but you were certain there was no issue with people's safety on public transport. You then appeared a few weeks later at a time when 9 bus drivers had been killed by coronavirus. Let's take a look at what you said then.
On a number of occasions, we've sought advice from not just Public Health England, not just the Department for Transport, not just the Department for Health, but also the World Health Organization.
Where does common sense come into this? All I hear is politician after politician hiding behind advice. And what I don't see enough of is common sense. If 9 bus drivers in London have died from coronavirus because every day they're being sent out to risk their lives without adequate personal protective equipment, if I was a London mayor, I'd be making damn sure they got it, and I wouldn't be taking any advice from anybody else. I'd be trusting my gut instinct. These people need better protection. They are dying.
The steps we're taking on buses include the enhanced cleaning regime, which I've talked about, which is not the advice originally, but we're doing this over and above the advice. You mentioned common sense. So we're using antiviral hospital disinfectant.
So when you assured us that you were taking all the necessary steps to protect bus drivers, 9 bus drivers had died. How many have now died?
29 have died, unfortunately, and many are watching your programme, Piers. And can I just throw with you a bit of indulgence, pass them my thoughts and prayers? I've written to all of them, but 29...
I don't think they want your thoughts and prayers, Mr. Mayor. I would like you to explain to people how it is that when you were robustly challenged after 9 bus drivers had died and you assured people in London that you were doing everything to protect them, how it is that we can be talking now just a few weeks later and 29 bus drivers have died and 43 people in total have died on TfL. You didn't protect them. They carried on dying. 29 bus drivers. That's on your watch. What happened?
Well, we are protecting all our staff, all our bus drivers.
29 are dead.
What we're doing additionally is I've asked TfL to get independent experts, world-leading experts, to review all the stuff we've done, because I'm keen to learn in real time whether they've done the right things, whether there's more we should have done, but whether there's more we can be doing.
Of course there's more you should have done, Mr. Mayor. 29 bus drivers have died. And we said to you, when you appeared on this programme, when 9 had died, you had to do more. We'd interviewed the widow of a bus driver that very morning. An incredibly powerful interview, begging you, as the mayor, to properly protect people that work on your public transport system. You know, and then we go back to the first interview when Italy was being run over and you said, there's no problem, come on public transport. Well, and now you're saying the same thing. It's fine, keep 2 metres away. No one's keeping 2 metres away on your system. You know that and I know that. If you go on a tube this morning, they're not all keeping 2 metres away. So you're saying that's what's happening and you're saying it's safe, but it's not happening and it's not safe. And in relation to the people that work on public transport, it has become a lethal death trap.
So the first interview you mentioned, Piers, was on the 3rd of March. At that stage, there weren't significant community transmissions.
There were in other countries, to the extent that Italy had shut down football matches, for example. So they were aware in Italy, where they'd been run over by coronavirus, just another European country, that putting lots of people in close proximity was dangerous. Why didn't you, as London Mayor, heed the warnings from Italy and do something about it on public transport, rather than come on here and say it's perfectly safe? Just wash your hands.
When I came on GMB on the 3rd of March, it was a day after a meeting with the Deputy Chief Medical Officer where these issues were raised. And it was on the 16th of March when the first time I was invited to Cobra, where we discovered that there were significant community transmissions and the advice changed. And you'll be aware, we subsequently moved a few days later into lockdown. As far as public transport in London is concerned,
You didn't know until the 16th of March that there were significant community transmissions with coronavirus. You hadn't looked at any other country in the world and realised that obviously there were significant community transmissions. You hadn't seen what was happening in Italy or Iran, for example.
No, we had, but you'll be aware we were a number of weeks behind those countries.
You're a number of weeks behind those countries in doing anything about it. But my question for you as the elected mayor of London is why, as I said to you in those interviews, why common sense didn't kick in and you actually did what you could see happening in other countries here and stopped people amassing in the way that they were and, as it turned out, being killed.
And we did when we were given the advice that there were significant community transmissions on the 16th of March when I attended Cobra for the first time. And what we've been doing in London is making sure that we're ahead of the curve in relation to the country, in relation to following advice. So, for example, the measures in public transport in London are over and above the measures across our country and other parts of the world.
Why have 29 bus drivers died?
And it is heartbreaking, and to reassure myself, but also Londoners, is why this independent work's being commissioned. That will report within the next 2 or 3 weeks to make sure any changes can be made, because it's really important we don't wait. I'm somebody who's been calling for an independent public inquiry, and the government should say they're going to have one. That will be in some time. We've got to learn in real time. That's why we're going over and above in London, but I think we could go further. That's why I'm asking.
So you don't know how these bus drivers have died? You don't know why such a staggering death toll of bus drivers has occurred on your watch?
No, one of the things that you still look into is whether there's a link with the occupation, some of the measures we've taken, but also whether there are non-occupational hazards, for example, their economic status, their age, their gender, the ethnicity. It could be to do with their housing conditions. So those are some of the things that UCL will be looking into. But they've been asked to do a quick report within 2 or 3 weeks to examine our measures. Has what we've done so far been good enough? If not, what more should we be doing? And whatever they recommend, we'll implement that.
Let me ask you about the congestion charge, because Boris Johnson has told people to avoid public transport, to avoid it getting overcrowded, and to use car, or better still, by walking or bicycle. So he's encouraged people to use their cars. Your immediate reaction to this announcement from the British Prime Minister was to reintroduce the congestion charge, extend the price to, I think, £15 a day.
And extend the hours.
And to extend the hours to 10 p.m. at night and make it 7 days a week. So, in fact, what you decided to do was to listen to what the Prime Minister said about using cars and make it incredibly punitive for people to do so. Why?
Well, let me paint the complete picture, which is last Thursday, we reached a deal with the government. As you'll be aware, like other transport authorities, we've been using our reserves to pay for our services because we have far fewer passengers, more than 9%. One of the conditions of the government giving us a grant and to allow us to take out a loan, one of the conditions from the government was for us to immediately reinstate the congestion charge and the ultra-low emission zone, but also a condition was for us to widen the scope and level of charges. So I'm required to do this as a condition of accepting the grant and the loan from the government.
The Department for Transport denies that, Sadiq Khan. The Department of Transport said the government did not force you or TfL to raise the congestion charge as a condition of approving that bailout. And the deal to reintroduce, well, you can tell us. I mean, is the government telling the truth on that, or are you telling the truth on that? By which I mean, who's lying?
I've got the letter here from Grant Shapps, and it's really important with respect, you give me time to just explain what it says. It says, this letter sets out the agreement. This package is subject to the conditions set out in this letter. This funding package is conditional on agreement from TfL on the conditions below. And I'll read to you the immediate reintroduction of the London congestion charge, LEZ and ULEZ, and urgently bring forward proposals to widen the scope and levels of these charges in accordance with the relevant legal powers.
Okay,
And it's
so
who actually set the £15 figure? Who set the extended hours at night, and who made it 7 days a week? The government or you?
Well, the government says we've got to widen the scope.
No, I'm just asking who made those decisions on pricing and hours and days.
Sure, it's TfL, it's us, but they
So
don't.
it's you.
But by widen the scope, they don't mean reduce the hours.
Yeah, and it seems to me like what you're doing is passing the buck, as you do so often, Mr. Mayor. The reality is you set the pricing for this congestion charge. You decided to make it go to 10 o'clock at night. You decided to run it over weekends. And my second question would be, obviously, many of the people that will be doing this, who will be using their cars to get to work, may be NHS staff, they might be teachers, there might be police officers, firefighters, all those essential workers that have to get to work. So are they now having to pay this extra punitive charge 7 days a week that you've implemented?
Well, you're going to both your points, please. So the first point is in relation to widening the scope and the level of charges.
No, I've got that, but you're the one who decided what that scope should be. My question, so own the scope that you then went for, and just tell me, are all these essential workers now having to pay these punitive extra charges to use their cars, having been told by the Prime Minister to use their car and not public transport?
Okay, well, had I not widened the scope as I'm planning to do, or increase the charges, I'd have been in breach of the agreement.
No, I'm asking you if all the essential workers are having to pay it, if they drive.
So those who work in the NHS and those who work in care homes, who are often in contact with people who are either vulnerable, they could be shielding, or they could have underlying health conditions or may have tested positive, they're exempt from the congestion charge.
What about teachers, police officers, firefighters?
No,
they're all paying it, right?
The intention is for all others, if they have to go to work using their car, they'll have to pay the congestion charge when it changes.
£100 a week.